Okay, so who are you?
What?
And
Who are you?
no, I'm trying to start with a good question. So who are you and what drives you? That's like what I'm trying to make my first
Okay, but when
starting
you say
question.
you mean like who am I, like my name, or who am
Yeah,
I?
I don't know. Okay, so I'm doing this. So this will be an interview that's in its own playlist, and it'll also exist in this episode. It's about Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if you celebrate it. You're Puerto Rican.
I do. I'm going home to
Puerto Rico.
About it now?
No. Yeah, we can.
We're talking. This is it.
Yeah,
you can cut it together.
Yeah,
this is happening. This is real life.
Yeah,
I do celebrate Thanksgiving.
Real time.
My family. The thing about Puerto Ricans, and this is gonna sound like a joke, but it's legitimate. We just celebrate. We love to celebrate everything and anything that's happening out there. We don't have to be a part of it. If it just guarantees that we have a day off, we'll take it.
You're there.
We'll celebrate it. I mean, obviously, you talk about Thanksgiving as a whole, as a thing,
right?
But it's kind of tied to us because Christopher Columbus kind of
that's what
discovered Puerto Rico in 1492.
Did he discover it?
He discovered it. You know, he made us who we are.
He did everything for you guys.
Yeah. But yeah, we do. I do. I'm gonna go see my family. It's the one for me personally. You know, since I've been away from Puerto Rico, and I have two older sisters.
Will you go to Puerto Rico to?
I'm not gonna go. I'm gonna go to Florida.
Okay.
The thing is, after a while, I think it was like after, I think it was 99 or 2000. I have two older sisters, and they all left. We all left. I went to college. My oldest sister went to Buffalo, and my middle sister eventually moved to Miami. So it was the first time that we all kind of like, my parents experienced the emptiness syndrome. And so we made a point to get together no matter what for Thanksgiving. So around that time we got together in Buffalo. What?
Is that your one holiday that you get together for, or just?
Well, for the last 15 years, we've made a point to get together no matter what. Because for a long time, I would always go. My sisters have lived in Florida for a long time. My mom, my dad passed away in 2012, but for a long time they lived in Puerto Rico until 2009, and then they moved to Florida. So for a long time, that's the one where we make sure that we get together. Otherwise, I've spent holidays with previous relationships, and or I go to Puerto Rico, and because I still have my friends are there, so I'll go there. So what I'm saying is I haven't even spent a lot of Christmases with my family.
Right.
But I've always spent Thanksgiving.
Okay. And you were born in Puerto Rico.
I was born and raised in Puerto Rico. Yes.
Okay, which is America though.
Which is a territory of the United States, correct.
So you're American.
So I'm American. I have an ID, and I have the papers.
Can you be president if you're born in Puerto Rico?
Yeah, you can.
So okay.
Yeah.
So it's
I don't know that's gonna happen, but
right.
But I could be. It's good to know that
the options. Do you consider yourself Puerto Rican or American or Puerto Rican American or is that even a thing that you guys are like? No, I'm American. Even though.
Well, it's always been. Culturally, I feel like I'm from Puerto Rico, but the United States, that relationship has always been a thing, especially in the island, because even with politics, it's always been about, are we going to be independent? Are we going to be a part of the United States? Are we going to become a state? And I think like a lot of people are in Puerto Rico are so obsessed with that, they forget that politics should also deal with work and benefits and social issues other than that. So I think they've made it a career out of whether we're going to become a state or not. But I feel like we're like our own little thing. We're a suzerainty technically. So as a territory, I feel like because we feel very insular. Even though we're a part of the United States, when you grow up in the island, as I did, it still felt like it was like the United States is something that's over there.
Okay. So yeah.
Like, hey, what's up, dudes? I'm American, bro. That's how I thought. When I learn English, before I learned English, I thought I was gonna end up sounding like a surfer. Like, what's up, dudes? Oh man, I can't wait to learn English.
Yeah.
But it's mostly because Michelangelo Ninja Turtle.
That's pretty cute. Yeah. Oh yeah, you love the Ninja Turtles.
I do.
When was that always been a thing?
Well, the way that I feel like I can explain it is that there are. Well, first of all, as a comedian, guys,
you can look here too. Look, it could both be us.
Yeah, that's a two-shot. As a comedian, guys, or as an entertainer, I feel like my inner child is something that I feel like I need to continue. Like, it's very important for me to keep my inner child fed, taken care of. because that is where most of my creativity comes from. Like, where that place is where things come out of. That and the shower, like when I shower, that's my idea. Yeah.
You just said come out of, and then you said that in the shower.
Yeah, well, in the shower, I feel like I come up with most of my ideas, but but what I mean is like I need to. So
you shower.
So for a long time, I think Ninja Turtles, and I think it comes down to psychologically, is like this is more than just like it transcends time, because to me this represents a time in my life where I was, when I was a child, and it's very specific, like a time of my life where I was a child, where I was the most free. Where that represents that. When I was with my family, I was taken care of, and I feel like Ninja Turtles or music are things that I use to kind of like time travel. So that's the one way that I've left the breadcrumb back to my childhood, which is why I think that kids end up feeling like I'm one of them. Every time I see a kid and they're like, you figured it out. I know better. That's just two kids wearing a trench coat. So I feel like it's because of that, because I feel like at some point a lot of people grow up and then they just get old, and then they like disconnect and they can't understand children. I still feel like I have kind of like I threw like a line out there, so I feel like I can still like go back and be like, oh, it still makes sense. I know what it was to be that age. I know what it is to, so I feel like I can relate to children in that manner. But not to say that a lot of people confuse that with being immature, and at the same
and you're
time,
also immature.
I think Kaja will confirm that I have no problems talking about feelings. I have no problems talking about anything. So I'm not stunted. I just want to make it clear.
You look right into that one. Was that where you're looking?
Yeah, I'm kind of both.
He's trying to look into my camera.
Oh yeah. It doesn't mean, a lot of people think that that's a sign of immaturity, but I don't think it is. I feel like I'm honoring this because I feel like my 8th grade self, or my 8-year-old self, would so appreciate that as a older person, that I'm not gonna say my age. As an older dude,
Nice.
I have no issues with having this, because he would have wanted it. Doesn't mean that I'm, not capable of being an adult.
Yeah,
or
you
whatever.
live in a house.
Yeah, taking care of my stuff.
Yeah, you got a lot of stuff.
So that's what it represents. And for a while, I kind of let it go, because a lot of people, when I was in high school, they're like, you like Ninja Turtles? Man. I was like, oh no, I guess I have to grow out of it. And I gave it away, and then they kind of came back. So after college, I was like, no, I still like it. Why would I let people define what I like or don't like? So it kind of came back in a very real way. And I appreciate it. I liked when the new Ninja Turtles came out. I'm a legitimate fan.
Right.
But it's mostly because of that. It's that feeling, and it could be Ninja Turtles, it could be cars, it could be like I have a friend who's like, what's up with the Turtles, and what's up with you going to Comic-Con? And I was like, what's up with you and cars? Because a car will drive by and it'll like go crazy. I'm like, that feeling you get when you look at a car and you can tell me exactly what the make and the model and the year? That's exactly how I feel about the stuff that, and I think everybody should try. It's so easy to be like, what a geek, but everybody should have a passion that's a hobby that connects them. It's whatever, it's really just a vehicle to take you to a happy place, and I think that's what hobbies, whatever can create passion, I think is super important.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of why I'm doing this here, and why I wanted to interview you specifically, because you are super passionate and you're super fun and funny, and I do think you.
Thank you.
Your energy is very childlike, not in a way where I'm like, that Carlos, he's so immature, but just it's fun to be around, and it's invigorating, and it makes me feel like I want to have fun. Like when you come into the office, it's always such a pleasure, and Megan also, it's always like when Carlos comes in, we like get our hugs, and he like kisses us on the cheek, and it's just the most amazing feeling ever. So the office brightens when you're there. So that's what I mean by.
And it feeds me too. It's just
energy,
like it really it's not for everybody, but I feel like that, and I don't know if part of it is the culture, but the Puerto Rican culture is very warm for the most part, and the personal bubble is very small. So I mean, some people appreciate it, not really. Some people get really weirded out.
Yeah. Well, and that's another reason why I'm also doing this, as you mentioned, kind of putting things away because other people told you, that it was stupid or made fun of you for it. And one of the things that I'm trying to do with this is to, have people trust themselves more and their gut more and do things that make them happy, and not because someone's like, hey, you look happy when you do that, or, you know, you do this or you do that, or you are this or you are that. It's what do you like? What's your opinion? Why are you special? And trusting your own opinions and trusting your own thoughts and doing things because nobody else has said anything to you, but you're like, I like this, or it makes me happy, or I feel fun when I do this, or I feel, you know, anything when I do this, so I'm gonna keep doing it. So that's
yeah, and
cool
I think the
that.
manifestation of what you just said, the negative aspect of that is like Instagram. It's like the cultivation of a life that's not yours.
Interesting.
It's the cultivation of something that allows for other people to feel like you're enjoying yourself, but you're not.
Right.
And I feel like that's where we have a disconnect, and I feel like that's literally the physical representation of that, because for a lot of times we make decisions, we do things that are not meant for us to be happy, you know, like
right.
I struggle with this because if people come and they're like, oh, this guy,
this you're big, you can't hide all this
but
terrible
like
stuff.
at the end of the day, if somebody can't take the time to make the distinction of who you are as a person and what you like and what makes you a human, and not make snap judgments, then they shouldn't be a part of your life, period. And I think that extends to everything that you do, and I think it's important to foster that in people, to do things that genuinely make you happy.
Yeah.
And not for the likes or whatever. Because you know what I mean. Like when I say Instagram, it's like it makes it seem like you're happy, or you've cultivated this thing where ultimately you're not really. Half the time you're doing it for somebody else.
Right. Exactly.
Really,
right. Or you're feeling lonely,
afraid,
so you put something up because you don't want to feel alone. And like 10 people like my thing. I feel better now.
Insecurity.
But this actually is an interesting segue into Thanksgiving, which is what we're talking about. But it's this idea of the outside perception of Thanksgiving versus inside of why people celebrate it. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned, you'd celebrate to celebrate, and that's kind of what I'm trying to explore in this. Like, I honestly don't know. I don't know whether Thanksgiving is right or wrong. Some Native Americans celebrate like they have a national day of mourning, and because it's they were treated terribly, and smallpox, and like you were saying, like Columbus discovered Puerto Rico. Nobody discovered anything. People were already there.
Yeah.
So I think kind of what you're touching on with the Instagram feeds into this a little bit. I would love to know your opinion about Thanksgiving, because it's that thing of celebrating it because you think it's fun, or not celebrating it because it's wrong because history says that it's wrong, or whatever.
Well, I feel like in my case, because I grew up in Puerto Rico, it was never painted with a political view or like a historical view.
That's a great way to think about it.
It was just for the sake of being thankful.
Okay.
Because thinking back, I never questioned why it was. We ate turkey, but in Puerto Rico you cook it to taste like pork. That's a little tidbit. It's called pavochón. Look it up. It's fantastic.
You cook it to taste like pork?
My mom, yeah. For the most part, you can make the turkey taste like pork, and that's.
For the most part. Do you not eat pork?
Yeah, but like pork is such an important part of like the cuisine or the diet in Puerto Rico. Like, we eat a lot of pig.
Oh.
But at Thanksgiving, even the turkey tastes like pig.
That's
so it's
so
great.
funny.
You've never had it? It's delicious. But it's turkey, so it's like a weird, like it's hard to explain.
Okay.
But it's great. Pavochón.
I will look it up.
Look it up. It's pavo because lechon, so it's like equal parts pavo is turkey and lechon is...
Do you guys ever stuff it? Remember there was like that turducken thing
turducken.
happening? Yeah,
Maybe.
where you like stuff the duck inside of a turkey. Yeah.
Seems very torturous.
Do you guys ever stuff
We do, but we stuff it with like mofongo or plantain-based
But you don't
stuff.
stuff a pig inside of a
we don't.
turkey.
Not yet. We
You
haven't
could
gotten there.
maybe
It
take
could
that
happen.
back.
It
I'm
could
giving
happen.
you this idea.
Yeah, you're discovering that for me.
Like Columbus discovered Puerto Rico, I've discovered
I'm gonna
stuffing
go
just a hock, just like a ham. Just take a ham.
We do have ham.
But no, you'd stuff it into a turkey though.
Seems like a lot, yeah. I've heard of it. I've never tried it.
Oh, you've heard of it already? I thought that was right.
Turducken.
No, but I'm saying a ham though. Nobody's ever stuffed a
that's
ham
true.
inside of a turkey.
That's true.
I'm saying I made it up.
You just
giving
made
it to you.
up.
I mean, have you ever heard of it?
No, but you should probably, the next video should be you actually doing it and see what happens. And you like serving it to people.
I'm gonna make it. Yeah. I'm gonna put it in a freezer or something, and I'm gonna mail it to your
mail it
family in Florida.
FedEx it to Florida.
Yeah, for you guys for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Or actually, you can just take it with you. I don't even need to FedEx it. You're going.
Yeah, I'm leaving on Tuesday, so you can just go ahead and I just carry on. I'll carry on. Yeah, I'm glad we celebrated.
Should have let you carry on.
But going back to the thing, like we never really. I feel like as a child, it was never like the Pilgrims and the Indians and the things. Like we never. So once we got to a point where we realized that it wasn't where the reality kind of set in of like, oh, this isn't good. Like we kind of, it's like the same way that I regarded Santa Claus. It's like I knew he didn't exist, but I still believe. Like I which is not, I guess it's not normal, but I was okay with believing that he kind of did, even though I knew it wasn't. Mm-hmm. So there was like the thing of Thanksgiving, like it brought Puerto Rico brings families together and does all these things. So it is bittersweet, but it's different for me because I didn't grow up here and I wasn't fed this history. Right. I wasn't taught this history. We had our own situation with Christopher Columbus, which we know, we have to deal with. But it's like a little bit of history for Puerto Rico. Like we were under Spanish rule for a long time, and we did fight, and we were able to be free for like a year. And then like if this was a movie, we're like, Puerto Ricans are fighting. It was like, no, we want to be free from Spain. Spain, get out of here. And we fight. And Spain's like, fine, you win. And we're like, we did it. And then cut to like Americans coming. It's like, hey guys, what's up? You want to be friends? And we're like, and then it's like literally like the end ? So that's what happened in 1898. Just to give you like
I don't know anything about history.
So that's what happened. Yeah. So that's basically what happened to Puerto Ricans. So Puerto Ricans fought against Spanish after Christopher Columbus and after the Spaniards came and took all of the gold, as that seemed to be the thing to do.
Gold's very popular.
Yeah, they took it and they
gotta go.
Yeah. And then after we fought them off and the Americans came, they said they were our friends. We're like, okay, sounds legit. And then we got. I mean, it's a complicated relationship.
Right. It's way more complicated than Carlos's story, obviously.
Yeah. Just the point is that that's why it's like we have our own history to deal with, so it's not as important to. It's kind of like as a complement to the history of the Pilgrims and the Indians and all that stuff. So what was my point? I don't remember. Can you surmise a point?
So what I got from that, which I think is pretty valid, which is kind of what I've been struggling with, is that you celebrate Thanksgiving in terms of giving thanks. And if people celebrate something and it's not to put other people down, or in a tradition of like, the Pilgrims had this meal and, Native Americans were treated poorly, I don't know that that's wrong, because you've taken something and you've made it something else. You've, made a potential holiday that's about bad things, and you said it brings families together in Puerto Rico. So that's a great thing. I would support that holiday, even though.
I mean, it's interesting because of my story, especially since it's the one holiday that my family has made a point to get together.
Right.
As more so than Christmas, more so than New Year's, more so than any other day.
Right.
Yeah. So it holds a special place, but not because of U.S.
Right,
history.
and also, that's another thing, like, as a person of color, I also have a sordid U.S. history being a person of color because of slavery and all that fun stuff. Okay. Lots of fun American history. But, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know that anybody, that's the thing, I don't know that anybody celebrates it, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm just saying this, but anybody celebrates it as a day that, like, was so great for the Pilgrims. I mean, historically, like, it's still up in the air. I don't know if you know this, but, like, they're not sure if there was, like, a famine, and then this was just a day they all ate together, or whether this was just, like, a day they were like, let's be thankful for stuff.
At this point, what is really surprised is if this story has been kind of skewed.
Right.
It's not surprising.
But I don't know that anybody sits down and they're like, well, let's thank the Pilgrims for,
for
you know,
so nice
for being so nice to Native Americans. It's more just a day where people thank God and stuff like that. Some people, it's like a very religious holiday.
Yeah. And I've been saying Indian, so it's very not cool. I should say that I meant to say Indian.
I've been struggling, to not say
it.
I don't even know if you said it though. You said it like maybe, you almost said it maybe once.
Yeah.
Cut it out.
That's making you sound like an idiot. Indians! Well, the same thing happened in Puerto Rican. The
Taínos,
the Taínos are not Indians, and they're called Indios Taínos. But that became a word. Indio is like, now means in Spanish, at least, it's like the native people. Indio Taínos. Indios. So we had our own mini US story, but
doing it.
On a tiny little island of Puerto Rico.
Are you considered Taino? Like, is that what native, or are you like?
So the Puerto Rican race is like literally a mixture split three ways. It's the heritage from the Taínos, it's the Spaniards, and it's the African slaves that came after they nearly, if not demolished all of the Taínos. So they enslaved. So the Spaniards came, they enslaved the Taínos.
Of course.
They all but died, and they're like, we need backup.
Great.
And then they brought the ships with African slaves.
Of course.
And in that process, there was a lot of mestizaje, which I don't know when mestizaje is when they started to breed together. So what do you call it?
Orgy?
No, just like when the races when like the African slaves started to mate with the.
I don't know what you say, mate. Though.
Mate?
I think you say.
That sounds like okay. Guys, let me just make very clear that I still have ESL situation. Like, I know what I'm trying to say. Mestizaje. Look, it's basically the mixing of races, is what I'm saying.
That sounds great.
They made it like it sounds like they're animals.
It's okay though.
You know what I mean.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you edit this and make me sound like a professional, because you know what I mean. Mestizaje. So I can pretty much trace back my heritage for Taínos, for the African heritage, and for the Spanish.
Okay.
Like Puerto Rico, there's not one defining look for Puerto Ricans. My grandma, my mom's mom, was white, blue-eyed.
Oh wow.
And it's funny because the funny thing is that people think I look Mexican, which is a really interesting thing, but there's really no defining look. Like, depending on where you are in the island, in the coast, there's a lot of the African, like that kind of heritage kind of moved to the coast. A lot of the white, like, Spaniard heritage moved up into the mountains, so I think it's like the kind of like that, very much like I guess it's the same as the hills, like people would just kind of like hide in the mountains from the, So in the central, what?
You need to make sure it's still recording. Okay, mine stopped for a second. Good, I'm glad you're still going. Okay, in the Hollywood Hills?
So in the center part of the island of Puerto Rico, that's the mountain region. That's where all like the Spaniard, like you can see most of the Spanish heritage, because everybody's very much white skin and blue eye and like light eyes.
Okay.
And then there's from that to like super African. Like, you look Puerto Rican. You could go to Puerto Rico.
I've been told that I look Puerto Rican.
Totally.
Yeah.
You could probably no issue, but people start talking in Spanish.
People do that here.
Yeah.
And I say.
You could totally be Caribbean. You have a Caribbean flair about you.
Okay, so let's pretend like we're starting over.
Okay.
Who are you?
Who am I?
And tell me about yourself. What was the question? Who are you?
And how did you get in here?
This is my house. So just tell me who you are, or tell everybody who you are and what drives you.
Okay, but again, that's a question you want, like my name?
Yeah, just like who you are. I'm Carlos. I am an actor, or however you would like. You know, you don't have to describe yourself in any way that you. Who do you think you are?
I mate with Indians.
Yes.
All right. Call back. My name is Carlos. I'm a comedian, actor, performer, entertainer. I've been lucky enough to survive in this industry. By living up the fat of the land, I always say. I've been doing that on and off since I graduated from college. And I think a lot of people always ask you, not a lot of people ask me, but I think nobody's asked me this. But people in general ask like what success means to people, and I think to me specifically within this industry is your ability to survive without having to have a 9-to-5. You know what I mean? And by that I mean a job that doesn't help you in any way. I'm not saying that 9-to-5s are bad, but I'm saying at least for the industry, it means doing something that's not conducive to what you want to do with your life or your career. So I've been able to survive, even though it's gotten hairy at times, if you will. But I feel like that's who I am. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. What drives you?
What drives me?
Is it just
as a human,
anything? Is it just the fear of some people are like, I'm driven by the fear of failure, or I'm just what?
I don't think I'm driven by any specific fear. I don't think I try to let fear. I think
that's good.
It's mostly like a desire to make people feel something. I know it sounds pretty pretentious when you say it that
that's
way,
great.
but it's really, in my case, it's just any chance, and I know that because I think it's in my DNA, whether there's a camera in front of me or not. Whether it's in a live setting, I like to, I like to engage with people in a way that's meaningful as much as possible. Not that that's always happening, but there's something about, I don't want to use the word entertain because that I think that can mean so many other things, but I just affect some kind of like emotional interaction with people, and I think that lends itself to being an entertainer. But there's more than that, in terms of like, I don't know what the word is. Maybe, can you help me find
I mean, you're passionate about bringing joy, or you're passionate about
yeah, like I said, that
making people feel something.
Yeah, making people feel something positive for the most part.
Because you don't always do comedy necessarily.
Yeah. Yeah. But comedy is definitely number one. So that everything kind of comes from there.
Right.
For sure.
Okay. Great. And we've already been talking about Thanksgiving. So Black Friday.
Right.
Is because the other thing that I have talked about is that Thanksgiving kind of, to me at this point, feels like it's become a holiday that's like just about kind of getting a day off, but really, you schedule your meal about when you're gonna go shopping. I don't know if you've experienced. I don't know if you've ever done it.
I did it like one time, and it was I was miserable.
Right.
I feel like I wanted to. A lot of times it's just like a social thing where you just want to be there and wake up at 4 a.m. But I mean, it was never about that for me. And I think when Black Friday became like, it was part of the national conversation and became a thing, I kind of like, I was like, for like a second, I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
And so it's not that I'm against it. I think people, unfortunately, we live in a society where most people are gonna be able to afford the stuff they need to get. That's not to say they shouldn't even have to worry about that, but that's we're consumerist society. So I know, but it just sucks the fact that it's like, to me, it's like such a level of control over the masses that we can just give you a day and people are just like, I think it's embedded in our DNA. We're hardwired to think that way, to buy stuff because it's on sale, not because we need it.
Right. So one of the things, I mean, you bring up a great point, which is that it might be where people can only afford to buy stuff on that day, which is, a sad but true thing. But the other thing that I think frustrates me about it is that we've created this holiday kind of right after another big holiday, and so it forces a ton of people to work. I think a lot of low-income people to not spend the holidays with their family because they're working at Walmart or Kmart or
and
Target.
And they keep pushing it back.
Right,
so
and
they do it not even on Thursday, the Thursday of Thanksgiving.
Right, exactly.
People are like, hurry up, eat your turkey, we gotta run to Best Buy.
Exactly.
And it sucks.
And so so I think I struggle with that. I guess I don't even know why it was placed on that day, because it's a total fictional thing.
Yeah. They decided to do Black Friday at a time where people could buy stuff for cheaper.
Right. But
leading up to Christmas.
Right. I just feel
think
like that's
you can see the
right. I mean, it's the day. That's the thing. People, traditionally like Christmas music is
the first
only
day
played after Thanksgiving, and all of that stuff.
Legitimately, the first day of Christmas.
Yeah.
Season. We're done with Thanksgiving.
Right. I struggle with that as part of the Thanksgiving tradition. I feel like it's football, turkey, beer, Black Friday. I just struggle with that as how it's been caught up in Thanksgiving.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's sad, especially when you see those videos where people just go crazy and get
right, and people get injured, and like I don't know that there's been a year where nobody's gotten injured or people haven't died.
And Puerto Ricans are very much consumer. Like they are all about it. See, that's the thing. Like everybody signs up. That's the thing. We not only do we celebrate all of the holidays, but we're also very much like when Krispy Kreme came to Puerto Rico, people were just Krispy Kreme, and they lined up, and then the Cheesecake Factory opened like a few years back, and people were so it's just very much like it's like, and I guess you could see it. I mean, when you take a step back, you can see that's what fills, for a lot of people, that's whatever is happening. But you see a lot on Facebook where people like clamp onto something because it's the bandwagon. I think it comes down to identity. I think that's a lot of people find identity in those situations, which is unfortunate because it's not real, but to them it does. They belong to something,
right?
Even if it means getting decapitated with a bin of DVDs or whatever.
Hope not a DVD.
A flat screen TV, yeah, I should say. That's always gonna be on sale at Walmart. But yeah, no, I think it comes down to identity, and it just gets warped because it's like when I was joking around the duck face thing. It's like it comes from a genuine place of you wanting to kiss somebody, but then you take a picture of that and you just look like an idiot with duck face. I think it comes from a place of trying to find identity, trying to belong, trying to get all these things, but it just gets warped, and I think, and it just sucks because it's like even Thanksgiving started. We don't even know if it's a positive thing or not. We don't know what history. That, we don't know what the actual thing that happened. We try to make that into a place of being thankful for everything. So it's kind of nice, but then it goes right back to like Black Friday, and it just kind of defeats the whole purpose of it.
Right.
We're very thankful. Get the
yeah, this was my flat screen.
I think ultimately that's the funniest thing. Like we're all very thankful about this thing, and then like 2 hours later, we're literally like fighting people for a flat screen.
Jesus.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any? You said you celebrate a lot of things. Is there anything else you celebrate that maybe isn't culturally American?
We in Puerto Rico, we're like, you know what? We'll take Christmas. We'll take the American holiday of Christmas, but we're gonna double down. And on the 6th of December, we're gonna go ahead and celebrate Three Kings Day, which is because I think originally Puerto Rico celebrated Three Kings Day, and then eventually we adopted the American, Santa Claus and all that stuff, which is very treated the same way, except that it's the 6th of January, and there's always gifts, but there used to be, when there wasn't a Christmas tree, the kids would get it under their bed.
Okay.
And that was the tradition, was that you would leave out grass and water for the camels.
Oh.
So that's a real thing.
Okay.
But in my experience growing up, Three Kings Day was always like a smaller end scale. Christmas. And it was always like the board games. You would get like the movies, or like not the big gifts. You would get the big stuff on Christmas Day, and then you would get whatever the cleanup crew for the 6th of January. But we celebrate that. So it's like we have a part 2 when we get to it. Yeah. So
did you still leave grass and water?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we put grass in a shoebox and then get like a pan and just fill it up with water. And a lot of parents would get creative, which, not thinking about it, it's a little bit, it might be a little bit more, how do I say, it's a little harder to I'm not going to say it's harder, I'm going to say it's, whereas for Santa Claus, you leave a plate and you eat the cookies and you leave the crumbs.
Right, easy as a parent.
Right. For the camels, what ends up happening is that they have to leave like camel prints, sometimes like poop. There's like the grass. It's like a whole thing. It's like, oh no, they came in and they just tore up the place. So it ends up getting, people get, Puerto Rico, they get more creative when it comes to it.
Okay.
I don't even think, we don't leave cookies out. I never did. I didn't leave cookies for Santa.
You're like,
I didn't give a crap.
Yeah.
It was coming either way. But we did do stuff for
But the camels would only stop if it was grass.
We had to make sure.
Sure.
And we would come and be like, oh my God, they left the trail and they were so dirty and camels. And then I had to clean it up. So.
That's fun though.
That's why.
So what's your favorite holiday?
Favorite holiday? I think Thanksgiving, ultimately, because I get to, it's the one that I've had for so long that I get to actually spend with my family. Yeah, when I was a kid, I guess it was Christmas, but I was there.
Right.
But now, overall, I think Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like that's when you get to spend the most time with your family.
Yeah. Now that I can travel more, now that it's in the budget, I'll come back. I spend Christmas with my family. I'll fly to Puerto Rico and spend New Year's with my friends.
Okay.
So I kind of, the whole season is when I kind of recharge.
Okay. Yeah, I think the industry does as well.
Yeah.
So on the note of, because we were talking about Thanksgiving and how some people kind of feel bad that it's celebrated, has there ever been a time where somebody has celebrated something that made you feel bad about? Like maybe, because you weren't invited or just anything like that. Or maybe culturally for you, like Americans celebrate something that's like, yeah, you really, that doesn't feel good as a Puerto Rican.
That kind of feels odd.
Yeah.
Celebration of something like, interesting, like give me an example.
Like Columbus Day.
Right.
So people are celebrating Columbus Day, we get the day off, he was a great guy.
Stand out. I think there's a...
but I assume, Puerto Ricans don't necessarily celebrate that. Is that...
We do.
Oh, you do?
I'm telling you, we celebrate everything. Anywhere. We celebrate everybody else's holidays. We have Columbus Day and we have...
But do you guys... so that...
But for us, that is the thing. Like, Columbus, that is the narrative. So the version of the Pilgrims for us is that Columbus did discover it. So we know the history, we know what happened, but somehow it's a duality where it's like, it happened, but we don't hold it against.
That's so interesting.
Christopher Columbus?
Yeah.
So it's a weird, I guess duality is the best way that I can explain it.
So you've never felt uncomfortable celebrating that?
Well, as a comedian, I always like to look at things on their head. Like, I've never really subscribed to anything 100%. So I've always kind of like, oh, we're gonna celebrate the dude that brought all this stuff. I've always kind of but that's personal. I don't. I'm passionate about stuff, but I'm passionate about stuff that I think is important. I think a lot of people put their passions in things that, because it's tied to their identity, it's the same thing as like being upset about dogs or cats. It's the best way that I can explain it.
Right.
Which is, to me, it's ridiculous. It's the stupidest thing. But people really are, teams, sports teams, that kind of thing. Like, they tie themselves to that thing, and so they need to validate. So I think when it comes to stuff like, I don't know, Christopher Columbus or anything that has to do with identity, I think people kind of get upset or passionate about it in a way that's not constructive. So that's why, to me, it's different. Like, I feel like I don't know. It just never affected me in a way where I'm like the rug has been swept under me and I've been living a lie, because I kind of always assume that things are not what they seem. Every time I hear something like, I'm like borderline, probably would the beginning. I'm like conspiracy theories light. You know what I mean? Where it's not that I believe it, but I'm like, I can see how that could be. I don't know. Are you a conspiracy theorist?
I'm not necessarily a conspiracy theorist. I'm just gonna double check this. I'm paranoid. Yeah. No, I don't think I'm a conspiracy theorist.
No?
I think I have a lot of thoughts about things. I mean, I believe in aliens, obviously. But I don't think that's a conspiracy. I don't know. I just didn't...
There's a conspiracy to keep that away from the public?
Right. I don't know if that they've landed here and we're being... watched or that they're hiding it from us. I think there's a ton of stuff that's hidden from us.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe I'm a little bit of a conspiracy
theorist. Part of it.
Yeah.
To me, it's like anything's possible.
Yeah, I think anything. Yeah,
and a lot of people are like, no, there are no aliens, and they get something like, dude, why can't you live like? Why can't you? Because it's tied to their belief system. It's tied to these things, and changing their mind means that everything that they've held dear to their lives is a lie. Especially with religion, So.
Well, I think that's a super interesting point that you bring up of being so tied to something. And is there anything? I mean, being in this industry, entertainment field, is like super hard. Is there anything that you feel that you've had to fight against, either within yourself or, from the outside, just because people have been tied to something, or you've been tied to something like, oh, I could never play that role, or oh, I could never.
Well, with Puerto Ricans, I feel like because of the nature of our accent, which is very fast, I have a lot of pride for it. I have no issues with people talking smack about me as a person, but the second somebody talks smack about Puerto Rico or my family, I lose it. Like I'm just like, ah. So I feel like a lot of times we have grown as a culture. Puerto Ricans are going to be apologetic about their accent, apologetic about certain things, and since I've been here, I've been very clear with people that I've stood my ground every time that they've been like, oh, your accent, they try to make fun of it. I'm like, no, that's not gonna fly. If we're gonna have this conversation, and so like something as simple as, because our R's, sometimes we don't say them. But this is, again, this isn't because we can't speak well. This is a mixture of a bunch of things and a bunch of, like, there's a whole history of why we talk the way we do, just as with anybody, right?
Yeah.
It just so happens that we're not Mexican. A lot of the accents that are on television are like Mexican.
Right.
Like whatever they call neutral usually. So, and which I've had to learn. I've had to learn to do a Mexican accent to work for my stuff, which is understandable. But I'm also very proud of my accent. I know that personally, I'm not going to change the way that I am as a person. But if it's a role or if it's a commercial, if it's whatever, I understand the difference. I'm not like, well, you're going to cast me because I'm Puerto Rican. But I've stood my ground because I feel like a lot of times people think that they get just like it's a given, right? Mm-hmm. And it almost puts people like less than. And so I've always been, even if it's not a popular thing to do, I just feel like it's important to let everybody know that everybody should be proud of where they're from or what their circumstances are. I feel a lot of people feel like ashamed. Mm-hmm. I don't know, but I think like every culture and every race and everything has their good things and their bad things. And I think that one thing doesn't negate the other. So when it comes to that and the industry with auditioning and stuff, I've seen people like, oh, you're Puerto Rican, and they think they can treat you a certain way or they can talk to you a certain way. And then I nip that in the bud.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
I think.
And not necessarily about celebrating, but you're talking about in a situation where I've been uncomfortable. I do remember when I was in college. This is the one thing that stuck in my head. I remember I was in college and I was doing theater, and I remember at some point a group of like people from the theater started making racist jokes, and this was the first time I'd ever been. It was just such a weird like third party thing where I was like, this is really happening. Mm. This is a thing where people are making, and what was weird is that I was in the group and I wasn't, like, I say this a lot to people that ask me a lot. I didn't know I was Puerto Rican until I went to Fresno State. I went to Fresno State College. After Puerto Rico, I was in Puerto Rico until my freshman year of college, and I went in the exchange program. And I ended up
There's nothing in Fresno.
Huh?
There's nothing in Fresno.
There's nothing. But it was, it was a good, Fresno State is a good school. It's a good theater program. And it was a good, like, halfway, like, transition for me.
I mean, I can imagine. I just have been to Fresno, and I was like, there's nothing here.
There's nothing. I didn't realize there was nothing until I moved to LA, and then I went back, and I was like, oh.
Right.
But Fresno I had a great experience. I was in the dorm. I was in the school. I was in the bubble. So I had ultimately, it was great training. It was a great transition for me from Puerto Rico into the real world post-college. But what was I talking about?
You were just saying they were being super racist.
Oh, so I didn't realize I was brown until I got there, because that's when, for the first time in my life, Puerto Ricans, there really isn't a lot of race stuff. There's more like class related stuff.
It sounds like you all look so different that you can't.
Right. Yeah, there is inherent, but for them, I didn't grow up with it. So I didn't grow up with that. I grew up with just being me. I had an identity that was mine. It wasn't because I was Puerto Rican. Because everybody, when it's there, you're not Puerto Rican. You just live in Puerto Rico. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it was the first time that for the first time in my life, when I was like 19 or 20, is that I was like, oh, this guy's Puerto Rican, or oh, I'm sorry, because he's brown. And it was like, whoa. It's like for the first time I experienced being labeled as something because of where I came from and not because of who I was as a person. Mm-hmm. So I'm very much, I feel like I'm lucky that it wasn't in my makeup growing up, because I never had that limitation. I was able to I was limited by myself, not by my situation. Right. I was middle class. I was just lucky enough to have been raised in a way that none of these things mattered enough. These things came after, but as a child, I think it's very important. And I feel like there's a type of oppression that kind of comes from growing up feeling limited because of these things that you have no control over.
Right.
So that's when I first started to realize that this was a thing, and it was really off-putting. But I remember in theater, so in that situation, I was like, okay, so now it's a thing. I'm a minority, which I never dealt with before.
Right.
And so these people, this is the thing they're doing. I didn't participate. So it was like this, I don't know, it's just weird. It was just weird, and they kept doing it, and I also didn't say anything, but it wasn't, I don't know, it was just like this, it was like a terrible taste in my mouth, and I guess I'll never forget it, because that's the one thing that stood out.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, so in that case, that's the world essentially, like, has put these things on you. Mm-hmm. And we talked a little bit about this. You don't have to say this exact same thing, but you had a crazy experience where you kind of just, put everything aside, and it sounds like you walked for days and days and days, and you kind of realized what was important, and you did that. Is there, can you talk about maybe like a little bit before that of why it took so long to get there? I'm just trying to, basically what I'm saying is like, what have you fought through in your own self? Like self-doubt of like, I'm never gonna make it, or I'm not good enough, or maybe it was that, I am brown, and have you ever, whatever it is that you were like, I'm just gonna be poor forever?
Well, one of the biggest transitions for me happened a few years ago, because I started hosting early on. I never planned to be a host. Comedy was always my north. And somehow when I first got to LA, within months, I'm probably a month in, I auditioned for a local television station, TV. And I auditioned for the next few months, and I got that job. And that was like one of the first things right out the gate. So I ended up developing, without ever going, because I went to school for theater, I didn't go for communications, I didn't have a training. But I think that, I did do stand-up, I did do improv, and I think that kind of combination kind of helped me be a successful or effective host to a degree. So I did that for a couple of years, which then led to an MTV situation. So for like 7 years, I ended up hosting, but that's not what I wanted. So I was faced with that at a crossroads when it was transitional. And when I first moved, and I lived in New York when I was doing MTV, so when I moved back, I had to make a decision, because I knew that if I continued to do that, that was going to be my life. And I know a lot of people, and I say this as humbly as I can, because I know that for some people that would be their dream, just to continue to do that, but it wasn't. And so I was at a point where I realized that no matter how much money I was making,
and that you could be successful as a host, but who knows if you could be successful as anything else. Right?
Well, it wasn't even that. I knew that I got to a point, realization that I would rather be broke and have the opportunity to do other things. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened. But I don't think in my mind, I thought, at that point, I never thought, I don't know if I can be good at anything else. It was more like, I don't think I'm allowing myself to do the things that I want to do.
Okay.
And I didn't want to live in a world where I was stuck with this one thing because it was successful and was giving me money. So that's the crossroads where I was like, hosting is fun, but it's not what I want to do.
So would you say that's when you realized that, because I think when anybody starts anything, you think, I want to be successful, right? I want to make it, I want to be able to support myself. And you were doing all those things, and you had to maybe, I don't know, it sounds like, but realize that being successful wasn't necessarily actually what you wanted.
Well, no, it wasn't even success. It's like, okay, so when you're growing, like for me, I look at it as an analogy, and I think I heard somebody else say it the same way. Somebody really important, I think it was Neil Gaiman, which is like
it's kind of Sandman and...
Yeah. He basically put it in the best words possible, but it is essentially kind of in alignment to how I've seen things. I've always seen my goals as a treasure. He saw it as a mountain. But essentially, anything when I was first starting out, any movement that was getting me closer to that, at that point when I first moved out here 10 years ago, hosting was a step closer to what I wanted. Okay. So anything that got me closer to that, but at some point hosting became a side thing. At some point during that process, I had to make a choice that if I kept doing this, it was going to start to take me away from what I wanted to do. And so that's why at the beginning, and I'm happy that I did it. It's my trajectory, and I got to do a lot of things. I mean, my time at MTV was very, transformative. It was my first, like by the time I was 25, it was my first like legitimate gig. Living in New York by myself and doing all that stuff, being under contract and doing all that stuff was like legit. But at the end of the day, I realized that path was going to lead to somewhere that I didn't want to go. I didn't want to be Mario Lopez, for lack of better. I mean, and he's killing it and good, for all these people. But I think it's very important that people, and by that I mean myself, you have to be very clear of what you want to do. You have to be 100% sure, because you either settle or you don't. And I feel like it's scarier because I know a lot of people, and that's fine too. If you feel like, what's more important? Do you want to have money so that you can be okay? If that's what's important to you, then yeah, you find your groove and you stay with what you want. But I think I was there. I was in that position where I was getting paid. But the fact that I wasn't going to be able to do the things that I really wanted to do was a struggle for me.
Right.
And ultimately, that's what was a premium for me. And I said to myself, I would rather be broke and have the opportunity to go out for stuff. And life was like, okay, well, here you go.
Right.
And so when I came back, I actively did not take hosting jobs so that I can, because, if you keep doing it, then there's just, the more I would have kept doing it, the harder it would have been to get out of it. And I think after I was done with MTV, that was my time to make that decision. So I struggled. I was broke because I wasn't taking those jobs, and it messes with your mind. You're like, I could be making money right now, but I really, every time I was like, I can't do it. I can't go work at E.
Right.
I will be so unhappy. And I mean that with respect, because that would be a fantastic job for somebody, but for me personally, I think I came here to do something, and the fact that I got to do comedy for MTV and the fact that I got to do comedy was the only reason that I was able to do it.
Right.
When I was faced with the possibility of just hosting for the sake of hosting, I was like, I can't. At MTV at one point I had my own variety show. I had my own sketch show. When that was taken away because of the recession at that time, I was like, I can't go back to tossing to a Pitbull video. Like, I don't care. I had it. I had exactly what I wanted.
Right.
So that was very much eye-opening for me. So it's been that transition ever since. And so I think that was important for me. I don't think it was if I was afraid I was going to do it. It was like I was afraid if I didn't try to do it. I was afraid of that negative feeling of not being able to go for it. And we go back to college. I mean, when I was in college, I was originally computer engineering. I was there for just like 1 year. But I never wanted to do that. I just did it because people said that that's what was cool. I never had anybody I didn't know people in the industry. I never had people give me advice, so I had to learn the hard way. I knew I always wanted to do that, acting and comedy, but when I was in high school, you didn't major in comedy. That was not a thing.
Right.
I think now it's a lot easier. There's so much more out there. And in Puerto Rico, you're either going to be an engineer, or you're going to be a doctor, or you're going to be a lawyer, right? I mean, in my circle, that's what I was exposed to. So one of the biggest things that I learned during that process was not having a backup plan, which is the scariest thing. My my whole life has been a series of calculated risks, and every time I am always at that point where you literally have to jump off. I mean, that's the best way to explain it. You have to jump off into an abyss and hope that there's going to be something. And I am super grateful because it's never enough. I've in so many checkpoints in my life, I've literally just like, and put just like eyes closed and just trust that, and it's worked. So I mean, at this point, I would be a fool to think that, you know, there's something greater happening. You know, we're not getting into debate, but I definitely feel like I grew up in, you know, church, and my dad was a pastor, so you know, I think faith is important. It's unfortunate that it also gets warped into something that could be harmful. That's a different conversation. But the point is, I feel like I've been in that. I've experienced that. I've been put in these tests, and I think 2012 was the last time that happened, where I had to make a decision where that it was hard. It was like a cleansing, letting go of all the things that weren't good for me. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people don't do that, and then they end up just, there's always something off. And they can't truly be happy. Because I was, you know, it's like it festers in you, like, what's wrong? Why am I not doing anything about it?
Right.
So that's basically where it all comes from. So having no backup plan and having 100% just go at it, and I think it's important too, in terms of like, whether it's the entertainment industry or whether what it is. Like, if you feel like, it happens more so for the entertainment industry because it's the one thing that people don't take serious. It's the one thing where you say, I'm gonna be this, and they're like, oh, but what do you mean, like a teacher?
Right.
Or how are you gonna, but what are you really gonna do? And so it's unfortunate because it's created this thing for people that are in the arts where they're like, they almost have to apologize for it. So if you see the pattern here is like, if I don't apologize for me being Puerto Rican, I should not apologize for what I want to do, you know, as a vocation. And I think ultimately it comes down to, you don't have to explain things to anybody. As long as, like, say for me, because some people don't have the luxury of having parents, as long as my mom is okay with what I'm doing, like, that's it. I don't need to prove anything to anybody, and I'm very lucky that I don't know how they did it. I don't know how my parents did it. They managed to get me out of a bandwagon situation. I never felt like I was in, like I had to be cool. I was never cool. I never felt that need to do things because I needed to.
Right.
So that put me in a position where I was like, yeah, I don't care. You know, like I briefly did with Ninja Turtles, but where I was like feeling that social pressure. But in terms of my career, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. I don't care. And so when I switched to theater, people were like, ugh. I was like, I don't need to prove anything to you. You see that a lot of people are like, oh, my name is so-and-so. Or before they even tell you their name, they give you their resume because they need to prove that they're worth something. Mm-hmm. And it was so liberating at a young age being like, I'm gonna do theater, and what? That's it. And like, you don't, a lot of people feel like they feel the need to explain themselves or to justify what they do, and it's so liberating to be like, yeah, that's it. Next question. Where do you wanna go eat? And I think that was crucial because, I mean, that's where, those are the things that you want to do to get you in a place where you can really create.
Yeah.
And when I say create,
anything.
Yeah. Not just just where you can be in a place of creation as a human. I mean, you were all put here on this earth to do something, and for us, for entertainers, and for people in this industry, to me, what's the most important is just create content, the creation of content, and putting stuff out there. Just like anything, it's like the output of what you're doing is always going to be paramount to your success or anything else. And I feel like I've lived my life in a way that my work ethic is, you know, I've always let my work speak for itself, which is why I suck at networking. That is my one weakness. If I go to a party, I'll make friends with the caterers before I make friends with anybody else. I'm like, I can't do that, which is why.
So networking has been a really.
Yeah, I can't. That's the flip side of that, is that I'm terrible.
How has networking like negatively affected you? And also like how have you had to like fight against that in yourself?
Yeah, well, I feel like because it's so artificial that I can't wrap my head around it. It's like, so what do you do? Oh, here's my card. I'm like, it hurts me. naturally. So the way that I fought that was by working my ass off, by creating and letting that. And honestly, everything that I've gotten to this point has been because of work. It's never been because I've known people or schmooze my way into something. Like it's always been, oh, that's cool. Can you know? I mean, even it's just been. I think it's just like I call it like life training. Just whatever I prepared myself to do has prepared me for the next thing, and so on and so forth. And I should be better at networking, but I'm not. That's just.
So that's something you still struggle with.
Yeah,
you're still trying to get better at it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm definitely a weirdo in networking situations. As much as I feel like I'm in tune with my emotions in a personal situation, when it comes to career stuff, and like that's a language that I'm not comfortable with.
Mm-hmm. It's hard
because there's so many ulterior motives, because there's so many things that are happening that I just don't. It's like the laws of power. Like that book, and you have to, and people read it, and they know. I'm like, it's so much work. Like, you just, I can't, So that kind of thing is like which is why it's hard for me to have, like legitimate friends, because it takes a lot for me to have. I try to break through the surface when it comes to friendship. So it's a lot. It takes a lot for me to
do that,
to get to a place with somebody that intimacy. I mean, I'm friendly with everybody. That's the thing. Like, I'm friends with everybody. I always give everybody the benefit of the doubt, because the other way, it's no way to live. It's just so much. It's life sucking to be like, what are they gonna do? It's just easier for me to be like, yeah, we're friends, and if they they betray you or whatever, they're like, cool. Well, we tried.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know why we did a long ass tangent.
No, that was good. So kind of what you were talking about, but just in general, not even in general. What do you feel like is the most important lesson that you've taught yourself? I think it's really important. Like I was talking about, the outside world is great, and your mom teaches you things, and your dad teach you things if you're fortunate enough to have them. But in your life, what do you feel like you've taught yourself that you've really been like, yes, this has helped me through everything?
I think definitely not having to prove stuff to people, which is kind of ties to the Instagram thing, the Instagram manifestation. I think I've been able to sidestep skip those pitfalls, because I just automatically do not operate that way. And it really takes a toll. It takes a toll on who you are as a person, the things that you do. But I think not being able to skip the bandwagon and seeing things for what they are on a personal level, I think is something that I'm grateful for. And work ethic. I feel like if I was gonna impart any wisdom to people, it would definitely be that I think we, especially now, we're in a place in society where we don't have to depend 100% on other people. The gatekeepers are slowly dying.
Right.
So what's left is for you to just continue to prepare yourself and not stop, because it'll pay off eventually. Just continue. My determination to just flow with things is the one thing that's allowed me to survive this long. And working with people too, like, it's not easy, because everybody's a world, everybody's has their own reality. So I think being able to have a large sense of empathy, which is hard to find in this industry, especially actors.
Yeah,
who just think it's just me.
Self-absorbed.
Yeah. So I think that putting yourself in other people's shoes, definitely, I think, empathizing. You do a lot of that. You're really good at empathizing, right?
Thank you.
When you have conversations, especially work-related stuff, you come from a place of like, I understand, and that's important, because you think that would be common sense, which it is, but a lot of people don't seem to realize how important that is.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I would say that's super important, because then it allows the other person to at least feel heard, which is you know, even if I or you can't help them or do exactly what they want or need, being heard is super important. And I think that's, you know, something that all of us struggle with, is saying, I'm here, you know.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, human nature, like being in touch with these things, with these feelings, or being mature doesn't mean being mature emotionally, being mature in the industry, being mature as a human, as an entity, as a soul, doesn't mean that you're not going to feel these things. Because human nature, we're wired to feel these things. It's essentially what we do with these things. It's the choice that we make. I feel insanely jealous, but I know where it comes from because of this and this and that. So how do we process this? Do we allow it? Do we feed the troll? So I think that's ultimately, it's at the end of the day, it's just honoring everything and anyone. I think it starts to get mystical, but I think that ultimately that's where it comes from. I think it's a place of accepting and honoring yourself and everything around you.
Yeah. So,
which is kind of like what the Native Americans were saying, tying it back to Thanksgiving.
That being said, what inspires you? And we may have already done this. Did we already do this question?
What is it?
What inspires you?
Yeah, I think so.
Then yeah, we did the creative stuff.
I think I'm inspired by the light, whatever that means. I feel like there's a lot of darkness out there, and I'm inspired to create and to recognize the opposite. I'm inspired by that.
Turn things on their head. That's what you mean by the opposite, right?
Yeah, the opposite of darkness, the opposite of negativity, the opposite of...
I love that. That's great. That being said, we're winding down here. Mm-hmm. Everybody's getting tired of seeing either me or you.
Right.
Do you have any... Two last questions. Mm-hmm. Just... Yeah, is there something that you just love so much that you wanna everybody should be into it? Do you have anything like that not enough people are into? Or maybe a ton of people are into it, but you're also just like, this is my jam.
Well, I mean, I'm passionate about. I probably go to the movies, the physical action of going to the theater. Way too much for me. It's hard to find people because of the other ways to watch it. But I mean, I don't know. I'm passionate. People should know that.
That's a great one.
Going to the movies, I feel like it's because I think it also kind of relates to when I was a kid and going to the theater. I think it's a place. There should be no at this point in juncture with digital. There's really no reason to go to the theater, but the act of it, I think, is why I fell in love with this in the first place. That's why I love going to the theater. To me, a lot. And
more people should do it.
Yeah. And because of that, and also in conjunction with that, I have an unhealthy obsession with popcorn.
I noticed that. I wasn't gonna say anything. I was gonna suggest people should try popcorn because I was like, I know you like popcorn.
Yeah. Yeah, I love popcorn too much.
Love it. All different types though. You don't seem to discriminate.
I don't discriminate, but there's something about movie popcorn.
Oh, okay.
I will not go to a theater if they don't have good popcorn.
Stop it. Mm-hmm. Are you joking?
Yeah. Can I share with you the best places to do?
Absolutely.
In my personal opinion, IMO, the best places for popcorn are Century City and
Burbank AMC. And have you been to other AMCs and it wasn't as good?
I've been, yeah.
It just wasn't as good?
Yeah. Or consistent with the popcorn.
You're being serious.
I am absolutely 100% OCD serious.
Have you ever brought your own or brought different seasonings or anything?
No. I like movie popcorn.
Okay.
I mean, it's not the healthiest, obviously, but they capture something that only they can get away with. I love kettle corn, but movie popcorn. Like if I want to go to movie theater, because I don't know. I feel like, and when I was in New York, it was weird because Times Square movie theaters, like when you got to Times Square, they were so buttery and salt. Like it was just like, ugh. But there was a theater. I used to live in South Street Seaport downtown by Wall Street, and the best popcorn that I ever had was the one. It was by the World. I don't know.
Yeah, the World.
There's a movie theater down there.
Yeah, I don't know.
I used to walk over there all the time, and that was the best popcorn. It was like so far away from like Times Square that it was like the perfect seasoning, the perfect ratio of salt and butter.
That's so interesting. Okay, the last question.
Yeah.
Hot dessert or cold dessert?
I'm gonna answer that question with this.
Great.
Bread pudding a la mode.
Okay.
So, both.
Bread pudding a la mode.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me.
Do you know
I know what bread pudding is.
I know, but do you know what I mean when I say bread pudding a la mode?
Yeah, English is my first language.
No, I just want to make sure.
Why don't you explain what a la mode is, Carlos?
It's French for in the mode. I like ice cream on. I like both. That's basically.
It's bread pudding with a scoop of ice cream on it.
Yeah, so both.
Yeah. But some people like cold pumpkin pie with ice cream, or they just like ice cream as their favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody likes to double down like that. Mm-hmm. Double dip like that. I'm not sure what it would be.
Both temperatures.
But bread pudding's your favorite.
Frozen hot chocolate. Yeah. You ever read that?
No.
Okay.
Is that real?
I think so. I've never tried it.
Okay. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
This has been a pleasure.
Great. Hope you get some stuff.
Yeah, Carlos, where can people find you? Where do you live?
Find me online.
Great. How?
I'm not giving you my physical address.
Yeah, maybe not
That's
that.
weird. I think you can go to carlossantoscomedy.com. I think it can kind of hubs out.
Your own website.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're kind of a big deal.
Or you can go to Facebook. There's a bunch of Carlos Santos. It's easier to say carlossantoscomedy.com because you can link out to everything specific.
Okay.
It's just easier.
Are you doing anything right now? What are you up to?
Not much. Oh wait, I am. Like right now. I take questions literally, guys. No, I'm going to Thanksgiving and I'm doing stuff for Equals 3.
Mm-hmm.
The studio and the show, and that's starting pretty soon. When is this coming out?
It'll come out the week before, I think.
Okay, so it hasn't come out yet. So I'm not gonna date myself when I say that it's coming.
Yeah, you'll get it.
Yeah. I'm getting ready to do Equals 3. Mm-hmm. So look out for that. And
other things, I'm sure. Comedy, you doing some stand-up right now?
Yeah, and then, I do stand-up or improv.
You're on a team with Luis, right?
I'm on a team. I perform every once in a while with Lou. So that's fun. And then I'll do stand-up every once in a while. And commercial stuff.
Yeah, you audition a ton.
Yeah.
You're always auditioning.
So, and it's been fun. It's been good. I'm honestly I was just thinking about this the other day because of my good fortune with Metro PCS a few years back. I am exactly at the place where I want to be, which is comfortable enough to really just be in a place of play and creation, and that's the best gift that I can give myself. And as an entertainer, it's the best gift that you can give yourself is the freedom, because I'm not trying to keep up with the Joneses, because I'm just happy to not have to. I'm happy to not be in debt. I think that's the best gift that I can give myself. I'm in a really good place where I can travel if I have to, but I don't because I want to see my family, not because I gotta go to Europe. And I can eat popcorn and not worry about it. And I can buy these gigantic turtles if I can. And
you're huge.
And ultimately, it's different for everybody. But I think after all the ups and downs that we go through, I think that's the best gift you can give yourself, is to be legitimately happy and what that means to you, and just go after that. Thank you.
Thank you for joining me here today.
Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see my episode that incorporates Carlos, click on the left. If you want to go to Carlos's amazing channel, click on the right. And don't forget to subscribe. Click that button below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you all later.